Welcome everyone to another edition of 10K Movies. I'm the host Ryan, joined as always by Tom and JD. Guys, how we doing?
Doing well, fellas. It's recording close to the weekend this week, so it's always got the weekend in sight. How you doing, Jay?
Like you said, excited for the weekend, excited for these games coming up.
Yeah. Like Tom said, we're actually recording Thursday this week, so we got was it 5 games? 6? I don't know. 4?
Tonight, 4 tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Should be an odd or an even number. Yeah, I got some good ones. I know Tom, your champion got knocked out very early, actually record breaking time this one. How'd you feel about that?
I loved every second of it. It's like it sucks to have your bracket busted immediately, but I mean, as an IU fan, that's literally a dream. Like Purdue losing the way it did, like I don't know. I didn't think Purdue was built for March, but I'm always scared. Anytime Purdue's in the tournament, I'm always scared. Like it's just like when your least favorite team. I think IU Purdue's even different. Like when they're in it, their fans talk so much shit. I mean, IU, I'm obviously disappointed on how we got knocked out too, but
Yeah.
you don't even try to compare losing in the round of 32 as a 4 to a good 5 seed that could make some noise still. Don't compare that to losing to a fucking 16 seed.
Yeah, play in 16-2. That actually shouldn't even have been there because Merrimack, who they beat or lost to in their conference tourney or whatever, it wasn't eligible.
Right. They were they got suspended like Bernice on dodgeball. A couple of fever tranquilizers. No, it was pathetic. Every sense of the word, especially when the 16 teams coach calls you guys out, being like, "We're gonna beat their ass," and then we're gonna beat them by 30 or whatever. I don't know. I love seeing it. IU swept Purdue. That's all I know, and I'm still pissed that we are already out. I was talking to JD about that because once you get to that second weekend, it's like you survive survive the first scare. Now, like really anything can happen. I mean, I think it's tougher competition. Everything gets a little bit like there's more attention to detail. Like there's less margin for error if you can't turn it over as much, which IU does not excel at. But either way, I was telling JD too, like always excited for the tournament, but I feel like sometimes you get after the first weekend and you just lose some interest. You know, if your bracket sucks, if your team sucks. Well, this year both of mine suck, and I'm still like kind of glued to every matchup. Like I just feel like it's whatever reason this year's exciting to me. So, what do you guys think about the weekend though?
I agree. Like like we were talking about before, it's once you get past I think the first weekend is actually, the madness that is March. It's, it's 15 over the 2s, 16 over 1s now, which is becoming more normal. But like after that, there's no one like, I mean, even the seeds are like there's like 9 4s and 8 1s and stuff like this tonight and whatnot. But even now, there's not really an expected winner. Like Michigan State is favored over Kansas State as a 7-3 matchup. But I mean, it's a point, but there's not really expected winners anymore. So you get past that first weekend, it's anyone's ball game at that point.
I think like I mean, Princeton's in as a 15, and like I saw all the shit on Twitter where it's like power ranking their remaining, and like Princeton's a 15, and they're not even like the last team ranked. Like people have them as like the 14th or 15th best. So like, I mean, we've seen a lot of Cinderellas over the years, like George Mason. Like, I think once you get to that second weekend, you kind of earned your stripes a little bit, and people are like, whatever seed, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm scared of this team. Like, they can beat us. So, with you, I think it's like after this round, it's like you luck into one more win. It's like you're in the Elite Eight. Like you stumble into one more, you're in you're kind of in the record books for Final Fours. I feel like that's what kind of deserves banners. Like you obviously want the national title banners, but teams will hang up like Elite Eight, Sweet 16 banner. I think that's stupid. I think Final Fours deserve it because Final Four, you won your region, and that's kind of the big deal in college basketball. So I think Final Fours deserve a lot of recognition, but I mean, obviously,
you were better than 60 other teams. I think that's fair. Also, I think in the second, once you get to the second week, it's like the nerves are already off. Like first weekend, you have a lot of teams where they probably haven't had a lot of players be in the tournament, or like depending on the team, obviously, or if they did, they lost first round. Like there's not a lot of teams where they went deep year after year after year, and most of those guys are blue bloods, which are weirdly gone this year. Besides like UCLA and kind of Michigan State, but Yeah, I think once you get the nerves past, it's like you guys said, just it's another game. Now it's just you're just playing, survive in advance.
Yeah, I'd say matchup I'm most excited about in the next 2 days. Not just because it involves my hopeful champion, but it's UCLA Gonzaga. Just because Gonzaga is usually a 1 seed. I feel like. I mean, 3 is not too far off, I guess, but I feel like anytime they're the 1, like I know I do at least, like just count them out no matter what because they choke all the time. Now I'm kind of nervous that this is since they're not like right at the top, supposedly, that this is of course going to be the year they do it, which that would suck. But yeah, I think that's going to be a really good one. But yeah, like you guys said, I mean, seeds kind of relevant at this point, so I think all of them are going to be like awesome matchups. So excited for it.
My
Yeah.
favorite 2 matchups are both tonight. It's Gonzaga UCLA, like you said. I think that'll just be one, a really good game, and 2, I'm in like another bracket. And instead of like copying my bracket, I was lazy and just started clicking stuff. And I actually chose Gonzaga to win it all. And I was looking at
Oh,
it. I'm like the only guy in the top like 15 with it, and the next guy's like 57th or something. So if they win it all, I'll probably win like a good chunk of change.
there you
And
go.
then also the Tennessee FAU game. I don't know if it'll be a good game, but I have a small subdivision on Tennessee -4. So I'm
Okay.
hoping they just cover that.
Oh, there you go. I think they should. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like FAU. I mean, I took who'd they play? Memphis the first round, which I
I took
liked,
Memphis
but
as well. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're pretty fun to watch. I know FDU gave them a run for their money too at that. I think they were down actually like with 3 minutes ago or whatever. So
Oh, they were. Yeah, it was real.
um
Like
yeah, I
that was a
just
back and forth game.
yeah, so I think yeah, I think Tennessee, I mean, knock on wood, I have a small wager on that too, but I think they should, take care of that, take care of business there. Even though Tennessee, that's why I didn't. There's some teams I just can't trust due to past, even though it's like completely different teams, just like can't trust them out of principle. And Tennessee's one of those because I feel like they are kind of in that choking territory. Anytime they get like 3 or above seeds, they're just like, no, they're gonna blow
I
it.
agree with that. I'm actually kind of annoyed because I last second tinkered Tennessee. I had Tennessee in my Elite Eight, and I last second tinkered it to Duke, like the Thursday the game started.
Yeah, that's tough.
Which is, I mean, probably not going to make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, but you like to be right.
Oh yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think too, like you guys were saying about the Gonzaga UCLA game, like I feel like every year, like the bracket comes out on Sunday, first real game. To me, the tournament starts on Thursday. Like I don't give a shit about the first 4, even though even
Yeah.
that, like, fuck, we better survive.
Yeah.
But the most excruciating days, I still watch it, but there's like the general sports talk where all the talking heads are like circling a matchup for the Sweet 16. This will be, and it never works out because there's upset. But I think Gonzaga and UCLA is one of those where it's like you're doing your bracket, you're circling this, like, oh, this will be a good game. It actually worked out. I think UCLA looks incredible from the games that I saw them. And I just hate Gonzaga. So, I
Same.
mean,
Yeah.
we have opposite teams in that. So hopefully it'll work out for you. But it's, I hate Gonzaga and probably pulling for UCLA.
Yeah.
Even though I hate Gonzaga, I have UCLA in my final, or I have Gonzaga in my final 4. And I'm not a huge fan of UCLA. I want someone else to come out of that region. I just feel like Gonzaga and UCLA are teams that've been there plenty of times. I don't really know who, but wouldn't mind someone else coming out.
Yeah.
I kind of forget who's on the other side there.
What, in that same division
Yeah,
or
is that
same region?
was
It's
that was that
Arkansas and UConn.
Arkansas? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind either. I mean, Arkansas and UConn have both been there. Well, Arkansas more recently, right? But I can't remember if they made a
Well,
Final Four
Arkansas,
or
this is a
not.
third straight Sweet 16, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember if they made a Final Four
I
or
think
not.
they
I think it'd be
did.
pretty close.
No, they haven't. No, I don't. Maybe all time, but yeah, they have it. I think they may have made the Elite Eight one of the last 2, but that was it.
Yeah, I think 2021 they had Justin Smith. They went to the Elite Eight. I think they
Yeah.
lost to maybe Houston.
That makes sense. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I would take UConn considering I have them in my Final 4. Kind
So
of
most of the teams that have been to the Final Four in like recent years are all in that one region, really.
Yeah.
I mean, UConn, Gonzaga,
It's
UCLA.
stacked, yeah.
Oh yeah. Everyone else, like, I mean, there's Michigan State, but that's pretty much it. Houston, yeah.
Recently.
Um,
UCLA was in it like 2 years ago. Gonzaga was in it 2 years ago.
but like Bama, Creighton,
UCLA was in it the year they came from the first four, I think, right?
yeah, it's like an 11 or
Yeah.
something.
I think Michigan State and like double it. It was wild.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
insane. That whole run, I think they almost had like an OT game every game or something like that. Or they were so close every time. So
That was 2 years ago, right?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember what those games. Yeah, they every single game they played was insane.
Yeah. That was a hell of a run. But yeah, so we'll be keeping tabs on those games you know, from now until next or the rest of the weekend. So we'll be able to talk about who's still standing next week. Besides basketball, I know we had another installment of Billboard Hits, which was 1982 for those following along at home. So I thought this was a pretty good year. Tom, I think you had opposite opinions, but I guess I can just start with my favorite. So I had probably like four or so battling out for the top spot, but after careful consideration, I went with Heat of the Moment by Asia, which I actually never heard of them before. I mean, I heard that song, I just never know who sang it. It seems like their biggest song probably that they've ever had, but yeah, I like that one a lot. So that's what I went with.
That is a good one. JD, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I also thought this was a good year. There's a lot of songs that have like recent popularity, or they just were popular since I was like born. Like Eye of the Tiger, Centerfold, randomly became popular like I don't know 6 years ago. I don't even know why.
Yeah.
Jack and Diane, Hurt So Good, but I went with Shake It Up by the Cars.
Oh, that was up there for me.
Yeah, one, I really like the Cars, and two, that's like one of my favorite songs by them. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty good year. Like, Don't Stop Believing was like 70 something, or I don't know if this is in order or not, but it was on the list somewhere.
Yeah,
that's true. I will agree with you there, JD. I think there are a lot of recognizable songs. There's a lot of songs I hear and I'm just like, I'm with you. I feel like I've either heard them in commercials, movies, and in my head I'm just like, that's a shitty ass 80s. And turns out I was 100% right. They all came from 82. You did allude to my top pick, JD, which is just a great song I love. You're right. I feel like it became popular, like not became popular, but like I feel like I liked it more like 6 years ago as Centerfold.
Yeah.
The Jay Giles band, which I think is actually considered like one of the biggest one-hit wonders, even though there was another Jay Giles band song on this playlist. But I went with Centerfold, and my number two was Who Could It Be Now by Men at Work. I feel like that is.
Oh yeah, no, that was up there for me.
It's just a super catchy one, but I feel like I've liked Centerfold more and longer.
Yeah, and I don't know why that had like a resurgence where I feel like, you like it was like when we were in college or something. All of a sudden you go into parties and people are playing the song, and I'm like, is this song like really old? And I like looked it up. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It was like I've heard this song at a bar in college.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, Tom, I pegged you as a Get Down on It by Kool and the Gang. I don't know why. I just thought Tom's gonna pick that.
JD, I thought you were gonna pick an MJ song actually, but
I thought about it.
He had some ones at the top there of the playlist I looked at, but
I try to pick songs I haven't heard before, or at least songs I don't listen to as much. I've listened to a lot of MJ in my life.
Yeah. Men at Work, though, that's funny you said that, because that was actually my second one, Tom. Who Can It Be Now? And I think they also sing the Kangaroo Jack song, which is Down Under.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. Anytime I hear that, I'm pretty sure it's in that movie, which that's a movie I love that I know is not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I love that one. So I always think of that song whenever, or vice versa. But yeah, it was funny that they popped up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was I love that song. I love Down Under too, but I honestly need to go with that song after this. Yeah, overall I think maybe it was an okay year. I think there were a lot of recognizable ones. It wasn't my favorite, obviously, but I'm excited to kind of evolve. I'm excited to see this getting into like the mid to late 80s, and then obviously see the 90s. We'll get into kind of
90s
that we've
pumped for
up in with.
Yeah.
One thing I love about these songs is like you'll
Yeah.
randomly hear one and it's from like a TV show and like literally brings you back to a different place. Like
Oh
what
yeah.
was it? Every little thing she does is magic by the
Magic. Yeah.
Police.
The
They sung that at
Office.
The Office. I think it
Yeah.
was Karen, right? Like on karaoke.
Yeah, it's at Phyllis's wedding.
Oh
Um
yeah. Oh,
is
because
when they
it's
do the
Kevin's
police.
band, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Or it's
like
just like only police songs.
they
And
like only play the Police.
yeah, yeah. She's like hammered doing karaoke up there. And then there was another one. I mean, also obviously police. I don't know if it was Every Breath You Take, which I think was also on this one. But I think they do that one in that episode too, or there was another one. But yeah, that's exactly what I thought of too when I heard that, Jay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like I always love that when I just like well in like the last weeks or last year, whatever you want to call it, there was like 3 songs that were in Seinfeld. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
It is true. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I do put the puppy in the hallway. He
It's all good.
You're gonna be our
If
fourth co-host soon.
Yeah, just a guest appearance.
he wanted to be in here, while I recorded. I thought he might lay and be good. It's almost his dinner time. He usually kind of takes a little rest, but nope, he was under the bed chewing at stuff. So yeah, he's out in the hall. So as we push forward, that's why you might have seen me off screen for a minute.
It's all good.
Works for me.
Yeah, that wraps up 82 for the hits. So next week we'll be doing 83. Looking forward to it. So yeah, feel free to follow along and we'll pick some songs in. But yeah, what else we had going on? For anyone that listened last week, we watched another movie, obviously. So it was Tommy's pick, and that was 2019's Joker. So yeah, Tommy, if you want to kick us off with some initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it last week, but kind of the first big name hit we've done here, especially a recent one, which I feel like when it came out, literally everybody saw it. It was huge. So Ryan mentioned 2019 Joker. So kind of in that, I feel like 2019 was kind of a golden age before COVID. And brought to you by IMDb, a little synopsis is the rise of Arthur Fleck from an aspiring stand-up comedian and pariah to Gotham's clown prince and leader of the revolution. So I will go ahead and give my score, but I want to say first, I've seen this twice now where they say aspiring stand-up comedian. He did like 2 open mics. Like people were just like, yeah, like even when he was on the Murray show, like, oh yeah, comedian. It's like, he's not a real comedian. Like, whatever. I just think that was kind of funny. Like, I don't know. I don't think he was necessarily.
I thought the same thing, Tom.
Yeah, that is funny though.
But yeah,
get rich quick kind of thing. It seemed like for him.
Right. I was gonna say. I think it's maybe because he didn't have like a prominent other job. So you're not gonna be like, oh, like accountant, because he's like his other job was being like a backup clown. It's like aspiring stand-up comedian sounds a little like sexier, I guess, than like guy that does odd jobs wearing
clown costume.
Like, so yeah, I will say on this movie, I know we've all seen it before. I think this is my 3rd time watching it, so saw it in theaters because everybody did, and I was pumped for it. And then I saw it probably a year or 2 later because, like most of the movies we've been watching recently, this isn't one you're just like, I'm gonna watch that again Tuesday. Like it's kind of one of those where it's like, yeah, I'll maybe watch that in 5 years because it is dark and it is heavy. This is the 3rd time I watched it, so I think I actually came down on my score a little bit, and not to say I didn't like it, but we'll dive into it a little bit more. But I've got this one at an 83, so I think I came down a little bit from my original ranking. Yeah, I got an 83, which I think is solid. But I'll pass it over to JD. I think you're up next if you want to give yours.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty easy segue. My score oddly stayed the exact same as it would previously was, and it ties yours as well. It's an 83. Like you said, I mean it's a dark film, but I love anything comic book related generally. And I thought this was, I mean, I really like the acting, even though it's mainly Joaquin Phoenix the whole time. And Bill Camp, who plays the detective, who was also in Birdman, with like the homeless guy on the street, which I brought up when we watched that. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And he was also in, like, the night of. But I thought the acting, even though it's mainly just Joaquin Phoenix, I really liked it. And then yeah, I mean, like, it's a dark movie, but yeah, like I said, comic book related, and I don't. It's just a really good movie.
Yeah, I think fair points there. I'm a little higher than you guys. I liked it a lot. I mean, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero, but Batman for sure is next for me. And just like that whole like Gotham environment, everything I really enjoy. And Joker is like maybe the most interesting villain of all comic books, I would say, potentially.
Yeah.
Definitely, in the argument. So yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot. Again, similar to kind of Mystic River that we did a couple ones ago. Like, it is super freaking heavy and kind of depressing. So I feel bad kind of like it, but like it's a good movie. Like, it was nominated for like a shit ton of awards. I think like 10 Oscars or close to it. So yeah, super good movie. I had it at an 88, which I think does the average to 84.7. So still, yeah, really solid score. Yeah, I mean, echo everything you guys said, but there's a lot to talk about and unpack on this one, I think. Just because there's a lot of theories and everything around there, like what actually happened in the movie and everything like that. So yeah, excited to get a little deeper into it. But yeah, anything that jumped out to you to start us off, Tom, since this was your pick?
Yeah, same thing. I really liked it. Yeah, I don't even know why my score came down. Maybe it's because like of all the hype it had gotten. It's still a great movie. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's one of those movies like a lot of really critically acclaimed movies. Like, even if you don't like them, they're still really good. Or even if you like them slightly less than someone else, it's still really good. So I think that's kind of how I feel about Joker. Like, I still really like it. Um, yeah, I was gonna say like something that stood out to me though with just the success of this film is like how much I feel like they owe to Nolan. It's like if The Dark Knight wasn't as good as it was, which was obviously incredible, like I don't think Joker was the villain that he was until, The Dark Knight, where it's like I grew up, interested in superheroes, obviously super interested in superheroes and comic books, stuff like that. And I mean Joker was literally a clown, but like he also like as a villain, I feel like as a kid was just like a clown. Like he wasn't this super menacing, super interesting character. But then like I mean, you watch 2 minutes of The Dark Knight, and you're like, the opposite comes true. So I think like the buildup of The Dark Knight, like the Christopher Nolan series, and then like taking a decade to dive into Joker, I think that character made everybody be like, yeah, I want to know more about the Joker. Like I want to see how this goes. So I think even like all the hype, a lot of that is owed to Christopher Nolan and that crew because like you're gonna see this regardless. Like, you're seeing it before you even know anything about it. Like you don't know if Joaquin Phoenix is a good Joker, which I think he is. He's
Yeah,
outstanding
he's awesome.
Arthur. So agree with JD there. I think the acting was great. I like I do like the New York set. Like I know this is Gotham, but like the New York set movie. Actually, I think this one they said it was New York because like they opened with talking about like the garbage strike in New York. So
Yeah.
I like the New York setting. I mean, I think they do a good job just kind of making New York seem very grimy, which I feel like is pretty common in movies like this. Obviously, super super heavy, like with Arthur's backstory and like the abuse he's had, with it from his mom and his stepdad, and then how that ties in with the Waynes. So I think it's great. I know we talked about it a little bit that the sequel is in the works, and I think the last scene really sets that up for pretty interesting sequel. Just bringing in like Bruce Wayne and some things like that. So yeah, I mean, I loved it. That's kind of my initial thoughts, but seeing what you guys think on that, what you think of those takes about kind of Christopher Nolan building this movie up.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Like you said, like I mean, Batman's always been one of the bigger superheroes. Like Batman, Spider-Man, Superman are kind of like, I would say, like the top three most like they'll get the most asses in the seats for the shows. But I would say Christopher Nolan's like how well he did them, Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, pretty much like when this Joker movie came out, you knew a lot of people were gonna watch it just because of yeah, and like Heath Ledger's Joker was
Mhm.
arguably one of my favorite characters of all time. Super demented, but like it's such a good character.
Oh yeah.
And that brings me so like there's two things I really liked about this Joker is well like one I know they talk about in the Dark Knight and everything, but it's like the Joker doesn't really have like there's not really a villain for the Joker. Like you know how like superheroes have like villains, right? And like there's not like in this movie there's not necessarily one person he's trying to take down. There's not it's like the whole system, but he doesn't really have a plan. He's just kind of doing stuff, right? And
Yeah.
it just like ends up like these cascading events. Um but that kind of like I don't know if you guys will see this connection or not, but you know how Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean kind of just does stuff and happens to get out of it and like things end up going well for him or like not necessarily as planned, but like
Yeah.
he gets out at the end. That's really how I saw this Joker. Like
Yeah, I
he
could
just
see
kind of
that.
like he would do something, no plan intended, and then all of a sudden like things got set in motion that he was like perfectly happy with. Or like maybe not happy the right word, but like he was satisfied maybe. Like he kind of started the movement, but even after like the clown movement thing, he's like, yeah, I'm not political, I don't care about any of that, but it's like he does care. But yeah, I thought the Jack Sparrow connection was kind of funny. But the thing is also like there's
Yeah.
not really an antagonist was well, I mean it's the system I guess, but like I mean Franklin Murray, George Robert De Niro. um but that being said, I kind of wish there was more character to I mean it's pretty hard for one person to carry a movie without any real character building for it. Like you don't really like any of the characters, and at some points you do like them, at some points you absolutely hate them. For most of them they're all like that. I wish there was just more characters in it, but I mean, Joaquin Phoenix did a hell of a job, and
Yeah.
Franklin
Yeah.
Murray's like barely even in it.
It's
Mhm.
true. I did like the little guy. That was also a fellow, I guess,
Oh yeah,
clown. I don't know if they were all clowns there or not, but I think so. Or
Yeah.
just some characters or whatever doing those like odd jobs, like you said.
yeah.
Um, I did, yeah. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix, like, awesome job. Like, I mean, if you're gonna compare it to like Heath Ledger's, like I like that one more, but I
Oh
do
yeah.
think he had the best Joker costume, in my opinion, where he goes on the talk show. I don't know if he
Mhm.
actually was there or not. But that I thought that was like the coolest looking Joker, in my opinion. That was really cool. And like that whole scene where he's like going dancing down the steps and everything. And that song that played, I forget what it was, but right at the beginning of that was really cool. Um, but an interesting nod, and this isn't like an original thought, but this is like pretty similar to Taxi Driver,
Yeah.
which obviously starred De Niro, and just like having him in it as like not a main character, I guess, but I mean he is like he does drive the plot, kind of like the whole show,
Oh yeah.
like his show does. So yeah, I thought that was cool, but yeah, I don't know, I liked it a lot. I thought it was interesting. I do kind of see your point there, JD, with like the characters and everything. I do like how, like, when I first saw this and they pulled in like the Thomas Wayne aspect where like he might be stepbrothers with Bruce Wayne, I was like, holy, like for a minute there, I was like, holy shit. Like, is this actually happening? Which I know it's not like true for like, it doesn't necessarily have to be true for like all of the adaptations or whatever, but I was like, damn, like that's kind of cool. Like, I'm glad it ended up not being true, but that was cool, like to like be guessing there for a minute, like, holy cow. Um, but yeah, I thought that was cool. And then, yeah, I mean, so what do you guys think in terms of, do you think everything happened? Because like there was one scene where he, um, well, I guess not just one scene, but he in his reality is talking to like his neighbor,
Mhm.
who's a girl with a daughter. And how that is progressing and everything, it seems like that is really happening, but as you find out later, she was never there with him or whatever. And then like when she finds him in her apartment, then it's like, oh, you realize like none of that happened. So do you guys think there was anywhere else in the movie where like maybe not everything happened, or what do you think? Because I know like a popular thing was like people say that the talk show scene at the end, like him going on there, like didn't even happen. So what's your guys' stance on that?
So, oh,
Oh, go ahead, JD.
I was gonna say, so my theory is I actually don't think most of it happened.
Okay.
So like here's my explanation. So like, all right, you see him in the cop car, gets hit by an ambulance, and it's the clowns come out and they get him out, and he's in the streets, and like the next scene he's back in the asylum or whatever.
Yep.
I just don't see how in the whole riots and everything he would go back. So my personal theory is that he's clearly like got some problems in the old noggin, but I think the actual Joker is out there doing these things and he's kind of living it like it was him, but he's just in his cell or in his ward or whatever it is. And he's just like picturing it how it would be like kind of like a mental escape of where he is. And I think that's like kind of what's happening. Um it also kind of goes back to like how I was saying, like he doesn't really plan anything, it all seems to work out. But like I think the Joker does actually not like everything, but like how he's like, I'm gonna get caught by the cops, the ambulance is gonna hit me, they're gonna get me out. Like that's like actually how I'd picture like the real Joker. Like, but I feel like so I think he actually is in an insane asylum like pretty much the whole time, but he's like living another life, kind of like a Shutter Island style.
Yeah.
But instead of being like a detective within the island or whatever, he's actually just like in his ward or daydreaming. Because there's the first time he goes on the Murray show too, where he thinks Franklin Murray like loves him.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And and he's like, yeah, take good care of my mom and all that, and that turns out to not be true either.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of it is just illusions.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting a point. I hadn't thought about that. Like, I mean, obviously there is parts of it that are fake. I always thought there was a differentiator like for those, but like he goes on the Murray show. Obviously, the first time it's like it cuts that it's fake because he was like in the hospital room, I think. But then like I kind of think a pretty interesting point, JD, because like honestly, kind of like when we saw with side effects, where it's like you don't just like let somebody go after they do that. So like it shows that he's in the asylum. Talked about at the beginning that he was in the asylum and like he felt like he was doing better when he was out. So like based on what you were saying there, I'm kind of thinking like, what if he was in the asylum the whole time? But like he had these illusions, and then when he finally gets like cleared to go out, like in his mind, he's like the Joker, and
Yeah.
that's where it picks off. Like that's when he starts like the organized crime and everything. So just a theory, but yeah, I don't know. That's interesting to think about.
Another thing I would also like to point out, say it is all true or whatever. There's like whatever in like canon, like the actual true story of like the comics or whatever it is. I think it would make no sense at all if he was actually the Joker, or like because I mean Thomas Wayne or not Thomas Bruce Wayne in this is like 10. So that means when the Joker and Batman are fighting, it's like like a
Grants.
60-year-old versus
Yeah.
like a 25, like
Yeah.
I mean,
Christian Bale.
like, yeah. So I mean, I could still see like if I'd say if it is true, I don't know if he's actually the Joker. I mean, I don't. We'll find out in the second one. I don't know if we've mentioned there is that coming out next year. I think we were looking that up earlier.
Yeah. It
But
is next year.
so we'll find out more of this storyline at least. But yeah, I could just see this being maybe like the rise of the actual Joker, maybe. But like I just don't see him being like the real one. Just because like I said, when he's fighting Bruce Wayne, he's 60 years old, clearly not in good shape even now when he's probably like 25, 30, 35, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I like that theory a lot. Like, I'm actually fully on board with that because there was also a scene pretty early on. I think it was very brief where they said like he was in the psych ward before
Yeah,
too, and they show him in there like he like hits the window or something. So,
oh yeah, he's like hitting his head on the door.
or that's what it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
was like, okay. And then if you draw that back to like at the end, which I think that clearly is happening where he's like either escaping or whatever, like I think he maybe killed that lady in there because his like shoes are bloody, which is wild. But I think that kind of like ties it together to what you were saying, JD. It's like, he was kind of just like envisioning this and like living it through, what we see, but really it's like kind of all in his head. And like I think maybe all of like the clowns symbolizes a little bit of what you also just said, where like it's the rise of the Joker. Like it's technically like unnamed or like not really resolved who it's going to be, but like with all of this happening, and like one guy just gonna like step forward and like actually do it. But like all the clowns on the train, which I thought that was like a really cool scene when he's running from the cops and he's like puts the mask on, like backing in, and then obviously like the riot at the end where they like take him out. Like I think that both can like foreshadow like, it's like a movement, and there's not like one like the Joker
Yeah.
necessarily. So yeah.
Yeah,
That was
so
cool.
I mean that's the theory I'm going with. I really like it as a whole, and I also love like you brought up the mask, like on the train, everyone has it. Like I just love that they brought in like the classic like Joker henchman fake plastic mask, and
Yeah.
they all look like this exact same with like, and they don't look happy at all, which I also love.
Yeah.
Be like terrifying if they all showed up to your classroom.
Yeah.
I I like those theories. I really do. I wish I knew what was right.
Yeah,
Right. Which is
Yeah,
also kind of why I do like because and like that's also why I like it, because like there's so many different interpretations like what can be and what can't be or whatever. I like I can't say I like every movie that's ever done that with like pretty ambiguous like ending or meaning or whatever, but I think this does it in a way where it's like it's okay to not know, if that makes sense.
yeah,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's kind of why I wish there wasn't a second one, because I kind of like the ambiguous ending. If it's done right and it's a good movie, which I think this was both, I kind of like the like ambiguous ending and let people just think about it. I mean, it still might be ambiguous in the next one, and I'm kind of hoping it is, but we'll see how it goes too.
Right. I know. I didn't even think that this movie would have a sequel. Like it seemed kind of like a standalone project, but um, I don't know. I think it like the last couple scenes, it obviously shows Bruce Wayne's like family getting shot, which obviously we know is kind of like his origin story, and shows him standing there. So it's like I think obviously it's going to play on that relationship building up because obviously even though that wasn't really anything there, like Joker obviously hates Bruce Wayne. Like in that last scene, he's talking about like, oh, he's telling like his nurse or doctor like, oh, I just thought of a joke, and it's about it kind of shows. He's like, you wouldn't get it, but the screen is showing like the Wayne family getting shot. Um, so yeah, I think he's, which also builds up the whole like kind of haves versus have not. Like there's this whole society. That was a big thing for him. Is like he was never seen. He was just kind of he existed without like the society really seeing him or knowing who he was. And then all of a sudden he's causing all this shit, whether it's real or fake. But like you said, JD, he was going kind of through the motions. Like he killed those guys on the subway, and he even said it. He's like, I did something bad, but like I don't feel bad about it. I thought I would,
Yeah.
but I don't regret it. And I think that's kind of where he realizes like it's almost better to make an impact, even if it's doing something terrible, than like not to be seen by anybody either. Like we saw that with the whole kind of like the illusion of his neighbor and him, like, in his head they were like dating basically. And then
Yeah.
you see in reality that they have no, or whatever we think is reality, that there was nothing there. So obviously that was a big theme of it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that goes, but I think it was well done. Obviously, I think it was well played. It's obviously not an easy role to take on, though.
Yeah. I like that you brought up the scene about the Waynes in the alley, because like that's one of my things I didn't like about it, was just because like I think they could have done that without having to show, because I just feel like we've seen that scene so many times like over all of the Batman adaptations or whatever. It's like, okay, we don't really need to see it again, and he's not even like the main part of this movie. But I think if they just said like, because I think they show the guy like, hey, Mr. Wayne or whatever, and then they go in the alley and then they cut away to Joker, and then they go back and like actually show it happen. If they just like left it as is, like we know what's gonna happen. Like you don't need to show us that part or whatever. But I mean, it wasn't like a huge detraction for me, but I was just one thing I noticed, like don't really need it. But as far as the sequel is concerned, like that's the only, like I don't know if the sequel is gonna be like a continuation of it necessarily. Like I just know it's a musical, which is kind of interesting. And this one like kind of has some of those elements where there's a lot of him like dancing, a lot of music in it, like not him singing it. Well, I think he maybe does like kind of sing the one song, but it's like, not an actual musical, but there's a lot of elements where it's like, you can kind of draw those conclusions. But yeah, I think with the sequel, interesting to see how it's going to go. Like, cause I think Margot Robbie's playing Harley Quinn in it.
Lady Gaga.
Oh, Lady Gaga. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she already did that. So, yeah, which I think that's just going to be awesome because Lady Gaga, I think, is one, like a phenomenal singer, but two, like, I
Crazy
think,
talented.
yes. And like in A Star is Born or whatever, like that's an insane like performance, I thought. So, and then I think she was in another movie, but I don't know if I saw it.
She was in isn't she in
Oh, House of Gucci, but I
House of
never saw that
Gucci?
one.
I knew she was in
Absolutely.
in the last year or so.
Yeah, I thought so. So, I mean, that's going to be really interesting. I'm curious to see how they're going to take it. Like, I just don't know if it is going to be a continuation kind of thing, I guess. Which I'm okay if it's not, but
Ryan, I'm actually glad you brought up the Waynes dying, Thomas and Martha, because I actually kind of like that part. But like, so it all builds into the theory of that he's actually in the asylum the whole time.
mhm,
And I think when they, you know how they tell him he's adopted and all that, I think that's one of the
yeah,
things that like actually screwed him up. And that's instead of like whoever told him or whoever showed him the pictures, like that's actually like his therapist or psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever it is talking to him, like just trying to beat it into his head. And so when he talks to Thomas Wayne, it like it's more of like a feeling that he got punched in the face than actually getting punched in the face. You know what I mean? It like when Thomas
yeah,
punches him in the face, and then so he hears about on TV that the Waynes die, and then like that makes him happy because he's had like this weird battle internally where he thinks he's Thomas Wayne's son, but he's not. Which would also be weird because how old could Thomas Wayne be in this
he
movie
looked pretty
too?
old in that movie, actually.
But like, I mean, yeah, but also so does so does Arthur Fleck. I don't know.
I mean, he would
Uh,
have to be like when he was. I don't know really the whole way. Like, did Thomas make all the money himself, or was his dad rich too, or what? Because if his dad was rich, I could see him being like kind of like
I
the spoiled, like entitled
I
kid.
think Thomas did. Who started
That's
Wayne
what I thought too.
Enterprises?
So that's a good point because like the age there, like
Oh
that doesn't
no.
really match up.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that kind of plays like Ryan into your theory that like this creates like the Joker, like the Joker character. It doesn't mean he's the end all be all Joker because like
Yeah,
in Christopher Nolan's Joker, you never really think of the Joker having like an age. Like he's just kind of like, at least I don't like. I don't think of him being.
yeah, I never
Like,
did.
No, I
not
don't think
even,
either.
I mean, Arthur Fleck is at least I'd say 30s.
Oh,
I
at
would say
least I would
30 is
say,
like my baseline number, I
yeah,
think.
I
I
would
think
say in the 30s.
I would say 30 on the low end. I mean, yeah. So yeah, like there's no way he's gonna be like 60 pulling the stunts that he was pulling in like The Dark Knight. So
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, and too, like you talked about Arthur, like he's kind of going through the motion. Like he doesn't really plan anything. Where like the Joker we know is obviously like a genius, like an evil genius, like you know. So I don't know. I think that kind of makes a lot of sense. Where like he starts this, and then maybe there's someone that also has like some mental issues that wants to kind of like sees this story from like the 70s and it's like I want to encapsulate that and do it in the modern day like what the Joker we know does.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like one thing I think I might have touched on it earlier too, or maybe you guys did. I like really just love the Joker character, because like every other character, it's like, all right, my wife was treated wrong, I want revenge, or it's like, I want world domination, I want all the power. The Joker, like they say in The Dark Knight, it's like just kind of wants to see the world burn. Like
yeah,
he wants to just kind of uproot the system, but like he doesn't. Like, I mean, generally, there's not one person. I mean, I guess Batman, but like, there's not like one person he's like super against, or like one idea, or like one thing he wants in general. It's literally just let's just burn it all,
Yeah.
which
No.
I think just like really interesting as a character.
Right. I think like the motives you talk about with like villains, like the motive always help, like
Yeah,
some I think are always kind of like corny. Like, I don't know, like Thanos, he's like, I just want to like eliminate 50% of the people.
yeah, but I
yeah.
actually like his motives
I, I,
I
I,
do too.
I do
because
too as it goes on, but like at the beginning, it's like, dude, why? Like, why are you obsessed with this? But then goes on, I actually really like Thanos and the villain, but yeah, the motives always play into it for sure. You look at like Voldemort compared to like Joker. It's interesting. I do like the Jokers because he's been. I mean, he was treated horribly in his life, and he wanted to kind of use that to channel it somewhere. I think channel it on like the city he lived in, but also like the Wayne for having this life that like, his mom kind of put in his head like that could have been his life. I think that's part of it too, where he's like, why do you have this life and I have my life? And I think like you said, JD, that's part of the reason he kind of had this vendetta and was like, part of him was happy when like something was taken away from the Wayne because they had the perfect life and he didn't.
I mean, that's a good point. Like, I mean, if you have pretty much nothing and you're shit on your whole life, who do you envy the most? It's the people that have everything and that are like kind of universally loved. Like, that's who, like, I mean, it would either be jealousy or admiration. That's probably generally what you look at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like if you're being told by your mom that like this is your dad, like again, if it's real or not, in his mind at some point he was convinced that, Bruce Wayne or not Bruce Wayne, Thomas Wayne was his dad. Like so he definitely thought that at some point. So yeah, having that ripped away from him too probably didn't help. Whether he got like punched in the face in real life or if that was, the shock of it not coming true.
What do you guys think about this theory that he actually has like multiple personality disorder or something? I mean, they tell us that he was abused as a kid and there was like a lot of stuff that went wrong. He was tied to a radiator and whatnot.
Yeah.
So like literally one of his personalities could be the Joker, one could be like Arthur Fleck, and one could be, the lost child of Thomas Wayne or whatever. It also makes sense. I mean, he's on a lot of medications, but also it kind of makes sense when he's like, I'm off my medication. He acts completely different and sporadic. Like, I don't know, just something that popped in my mind just now.
Yeah, I can see that. I also I wanted to double check how that last scene went with the well, I don't not nurse, but like the
In the
evaluator
psych
in the
ward.
hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, kind of going to that, like it could be the multiple personalities, but because she asked him like, have you been keeping up with your journal? And he had the journal in the with the psychiatrist, like, when he was on the outside. So I think that parallel there kind of further goes to your just overall theory, JD, that like he's been in that ward the whole time. And she's like, what's in it? Like, can I see it? And she like shows it, or he shows it or whatever. And I think it was like blank or whatever, but he just like starts like smiling, like, that was like his basically what was in the journal is the movie we just watched, is kind of what I'm thinking. So, but yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that didn't really answer your multiple personalities question, but
No.
I could see that too. Like, I mean, he's just a loony guy that I mean, he is screwed up, especially if he actually did, kill Murray and that guy that he worked with. But, he had a shit childhood. So
Yeah.
not saying it like excuses it, but like
But
he had the short end of the stick.
yeah. Not to pivot too far away from the Joker, but you know how they're making a Batman 2 with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Barry Keegan? I always forget how to say his last name. How do you feel about him as the Joker?
I love it after seeing him in Banshees of Inisherin, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I haven't really seen him in anything because I know he is technically supposed to be the Joker, I think, in the end. I don't know I don't think it was an end credit scene, but just like one of the last scenes of the Batman
Yeah,
one.
yeah, asking like that riddle or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think
I would
I saw.
like it. I mean, I think he's a really good actor, so that would be interesting. I mean, I wouldn't want like Joaquin, which I think he did like a great job. I wouldn't want him to like transfer over to that, which I don't even think they would do anyway. But
Yeah,
I would like to see, another person take on it, and he's a good actor.
I kind of like him too. I mean, he was in like Dunkirk. He did Killing of a Sacred Deer. So he's done like some. He's done a lot of movies where he doesn't have like a very light personality. Even like Banshees of Inisherin or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
not to get in spoilers for that, but he doesn't have like that light of a personality in that either. Like barely. I honestly don't even know what it looks like for him to smile.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think he'd do pretty well.
Yeah. And I don't know if that next movie is going to be with the Joker in there or not, because I think they signed on for 3. So I mean, he's got to pop in at some point.
I think it's like rumored. I don't know if it's 100% or not. I think it's rumored though that he'll be the Joker in that. Well, I know he's like the Joker or whatever in that universe, but I think it's rumored that he'll be in that movie as the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Have you ever seen that one time? That Batman, the new one?
No, I actually didn't. I haven't seen
Oh
that.
shit.
I know it
That
kind
would
of
be a good one.
That is
got
a good one.
up for me last spring-ish when it came out, but I need to. I heard it's really good, but
It is.
I was just gonna say because you guys are talking about like new Jokers and stuff. It's like there's always like a pressure, I think, with any like big like superhero role like that, like new Spider-Man, new Batman. But I feel like Joker, it's like on another level because of Heath Ledger. Like this was
Yeah.
kind of a huge deal. I feel like with Joaquin Phoenix kind of reprising this role, and I feel like people kind of had mixed opinions about somebody else doing it. And it, I mean, I think all the reviews are pretty positive. Like I think it's so it'll be interesting to see like how many variations of the Joker there continue to be because they held off for a while.
Yeah.
I think Dark Knight came out in like 08 and this was 2019. So
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, like you said. I mean, it's hard to follow up that performance, which no, I don't think anyone like expects to like top it or anything. I just don't know how you can. Even though I think Joaquin did win best actor for this, but I mean, regardless, yeah, that is a good point. Like, it is insane amount of pressure for any of these well-known like characters that have been adapted or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think he did a good job. So, and I am excited to see what the sequel, like, even if it isn't, directly correlated or whatever. Like, I think it's going to be for sure interesting.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And speaking of adaptations, do you guys like the Jared Leto, however you say
Oh
it?
no, I that's one I actually hate.
I totally forgot about him in
I
the
hated his.
Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just hate
Suicide
that
Squad.
movie. I mean, that movie is one of my least favorites of all time. And it had an awesome trailer for it.
Oh, it did.
And I was like, oh, this is like a cool spin on things. And then I remember watching that and I was like so let down at not just him, but just like the whole movie in general was, I thought, terrible. So, but I actually haven't seen the newest one, which I think they just dropped and it's just Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
But I heard that one's actually really good.
I actually
but
like that one, yeah. And I
Yeah.
went on to see like John Cena's Peacemaker on HBO after that too.
heard that's really good too.
That's a pretty good series. I mean, I don't know. DC for me, it's just like they're so hit or miss. I either really like the project or absolutely just why'd you make that?
Yeah, they do have a lot of misses. Although, I mean, if you're going to compare that to Marvel, like Marvel is kind of they can never get as bad as some of those DC ones, but like they are like on the downslope, I would
Thor:
say.
Dark World,
Well, yeah, yes, but I'm saying like overall,
like current projects.
yeah, like
Yeah.
anything like that's going to be made, like they'll never, Marvel will never be viewed as like, wow, like they're just as bad as DC, just
No.
because like that whole Infinity Saga was like so awesome and like well written and like wrapped up so well, and then yeah.
It's kind of like when people talk about like MJ, right? They talk about the 90s MJ that won 6 titles in a row and took 2 years off to play baseball, still came back and won 3. But they don't talk about, Wizards MJ, like stuff like that. It's like no matter how bad his career could have got, you're gonna remember 90s MJ.
The prime, yeah.
Yeah. Which I always agree with Marvel. I think Marvel's biggest problem right now is they're kind of pushing too much content and it's not all movies. Like you got shows that are 10 series long, releasing a month away from each other. And I'm just like, dude, I cannot keep up with all of it anymore.
Yeah,
Because it used to be 3 or 4 movies a year, and you're like, oh yeah, I can watch those.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point, JD. Like, I mean, no matter what they do, like they'll always have. I mean, the Avengers like took over the world for a little bit. Like when he's in Infinity War and Endgame, like both of those. I mean, you literally kind of stopped what you were doing and just went and saw them like the day they came out. So yeah, I think Marvel it's like a little oversaturated for sure, but I don't think DC has like an equivalent. DC's made some good stuff, but like I don't think they have anything relatively close.
Yeah, I think they try to do it with Justice League. They had everyone kind of set up. They had Bruce Wayne getting the team together, kind of like how we had Iron Man, like stuff like that. But then it all just doesn't really come together the same. There's not really one single storyline. Kind of like I know the Avengers, you really didn't know until like later that it's all the Infinity War, but just I don't know. DC just doesn't seem to have a storyline that works like that. Not yet, at least. I don't know. I hope they do it because I actually like some of their characters, but
yeah, I do think, yeah, just the characters overall, like Marvel has a bigger depth in my opinion. Like DC, Superman, Batman, obviously or like huge and some of the biggest of all of them combined. But yeah, I just think they can run out of some steam with that. But yeah, I mean, I hope they figure it out too. I'm also okay if there's just like a big break of like comic and superhero stuff because I just feel like that's all we have had. And I know there's other stuff, but there is like really good stuff otherwise out there. But I just feel like that's always going to be at the forefront of like what's most popular because it is super popular. But I would be cool with like a little bit of a break on that.
Yeah, same. And I know we talk about it a lot, especially when we're talking movies, that we want more originals out, less sequels, less. I mean, I don't care if it's based on a book or something, but especially comic books, it's a very overplayed thing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out that I don't know how you left off Green Lantern from the DC movies.
Yeah, right.
Wow. That movie. I don't know if you guys ever saw it, the Ryan Reynolds one. It is.
I did, yeah,
But
yeah. It's bad.
yeah,
Which he usually doesn't miss. I mean,
it's a little
that was earlier on in his career, I guess. But
like late 2000, maybe early 2010s.
yeah. So I mean, everyone's allowed to have a bad movie for sure. Like,
Oh yeah, everyone's got at least one.
it's tough. Yeah, it's tough to find someone that has never made a single bad one, or like
Yeah.
been either directed or just like been in it, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
possible, honestly.
Yeah.
When he's coming up and stuff, like he'll take any role.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you know it's gonna be a blockbuster and a lot of people are gonna watch. Like, I mean, I'm not saying Green Lantern was necessarily a blockbuster, but it's like comic book movies off the bat. You have like a base following that will no matter see that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are big Ryan Reynolds fans, and just like you
Yeah.
guys assume he's not gonna miss. Like, he's a movie free guy this summer, and it's like,
Yeah.
at the very least, it's probably gonna be funny because like he's funny. So
I love that movie.
It was, yeah, it was good.
So yeah, I think yeah, I agree with you, JD. Like I think the way studios and stuff probably see it is like it's such a cash cow with all the Marvel stuff. Like, Marvel went on like a run. I remember when I saw the first, even going back to Dark Knight, 2008 was a smash hit. Dark Knight Rises, but then like I remember seeing like the original Avengers, I think came out in like 2012, I want to say 2011, 2012.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And I just feel like it was on a run, and then it, end of like the 2010s is when Endgame and everything was coming out. Like obviously Marvel reached like heights that nobody really reaches, and they're like, well, we got to kind of keep this going while like strike while the iron's hot a little bit, and just we'll churn out everything because our fan base is so huge they will watch it. And I don't know. To me, I'm not that into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole problem with sequels and everything now. It's like production studios, you can take a risk on an original story or whatever, but unless you have a big name like Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Villanueva, like a bunch of those guys, like you're just like, dude, we could just make another movie that's a sequel of something people already love, and they're gonna come see it. And
No
like,
matter what, money's gonna
yeah,
be spent.
exactly. And I'm trying to put my foot down and not watch it, but there's so many of these things that come out that I feel like I just have to watch. But I will say I haven't watched a lot of the new Marvel projects. I might catch up. I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah, I think it's probably like I wonder how much that ties into like COVID. Like they lost so much money basically, where it's like I'm less likely to pull a risk on like I'm thinking of some of the originals we've seen recently and over the years where it's like less likely to do that. But if I shell out like a Marvel spin-off, I'm guaranteed to get at least this much back.
yeah, exactly. Like,
Yep.
like if you do a Marvel movie, you're pretty much guaranteed to break even. Like even if it's horrible.
Yeah.
Which for the most part they're pretty good. And like they have like Jon Favreau and a few other guys. I really like Jon Favreau. I don't know if
Me
he's still
too.
part of the direction crew or not, but yeah, I really like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Overall, I mean, I really like this movie. I think it's one that honestly, everybody has seen. Yeah, I like your guys' theories on it too. Like it.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very much possible. We'll see if we actually find out if it's true or not moving forward. But
Yeah. Where does that come into rankings with the other ones on the list?
Comes in at obviously 84.7. We got it at 182, and it's right between Hacksaw Ridge and We're the Millers, which
Okay.
That is interesting.
Yeah,
Company.
Some wild combo there.
Interesting company, but We're the Miller. That's another topic. Honestly, I feel like we could talk about at some point. Is just like movies you like distinctly remember from going to the theater. Like I remember We're the Millers because it was way funnier than I thought it would be, and that
Yeah.
with me
Yeah.
makes me like it a little bit more. Just like we talked about earlier, where it's like movies have a special place in your heart for a variety of reasons, and that and 21 Jump Street, which I know I saw with JD, those stick out to me as like movies you love because they were funnier than you thought, and you paid
Yeah.
money to see them.
That's how I am, like Wolf of Wall Street, as well as like 21 Jump Street and a few other movies. Like Wolf of Wall Street, going in, I thought it was not gonna be boring, but I thought it was gonna be really like tame. It's about, it's a big fraud, like all this stuff, like corruption, and it was one of the wildest movies I ever saw at the time because I was like, I just didn't expect it at all. Like now when I go in and I watch it, I know what's gonna happen. But like the first time I watched it, like people were leaving the theaters. Like, you see older couples, like maybe in their 50s or whatever, like they're thinking that it was gonna be the movie that I thought, and they just left.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people.
That was a polarizing one, I would say.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, definitely was. Yeah, that's a really good point on that. As far as those movies go, like we're under a loop. So yeah, so we've got it coming in here at 84.7, which is pretty solid, I think. I think honestly IMDb had it as an 8.4, so we're pretty
Right on.
lockstep with them.
Pretty much right on the nose, yeah. I
Mhm.
think that's a pretty good accurate rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. But JD, I think you're up next week, so you want to hit us with what you got next week on tap?
I do, yeah. So it's a movie I think a good amount of people have seen, but it's one of those movies where I think more people should watch it. It's Rush. It's the Niki Lauda James Hutt story. It's a true story about F1 racing in like the 70s. Here, I'll just read the title or the definition. The merciless 1970s rivalry between Formula One rivals James Hunt and Niki Lauda. It's kind of weird they put rivalry and rivals, a little redundant. But yeah, so it's a true story. It's pretty cool. I really like this movie. Made me like F1 in general. It's what I watched it a few years ago and started watching F1 before like Drive to Survive was the biggest thing, which I still haven't seen. But yeah, I think a lot more people should watch this movie. I really like it.
Yeah. I know I've seen it, which well, I won't spoil how I feel about it, but have seen it, and I agree, JD. It's one that I stumbled across like 2 years ago, I think, just on streaming, and I'd never really heard about it prior to that, and watched it, and I mean, you'll see what we think about it, but yeah, I definitely think a lot more people should see it if they haven't already.
I haven't
It's
seen
got
it.
Yeah, it's got a good cast. It's got
There you go.
Chris Hemsworth, Olivia Wilde, Daniel Bruhl, who was in Avengers, one of them.
Yeah, the
Oh, it was
Captain America
it was
Civil
Civil
War one.
War. It was Civil War. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the German guy or whatever. But yeah, I think it's a really good movie. I'm excited to talk about it.
Like the story already. Like it sounds really cool. Really.
Yeah,
So, that Daniel Bruhl guy's also in Glorious Bastards.
yeah, he is.
Jack, and then yeah, Civil War. Interesting.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. Like Ryan said, like I kind of stumbled across it and I didn't really know what it was gonna be, and then I ended up just like loving the movie actually.
No, I'm pumped.
Sweet. So yeah, that's next week. Anyone that wants to watch along, yeah, it'll be Rush next week.
On Netflix.
Yeah, on Netflix. So everyone should be able to log into that in some way or fashion. But besides that, are you guys watching anything new? I know obviously March Madness is what I have been mainly watching, but still Mandalorian, just a new episode yesterday, but that's really about it for me. How about you guys?
Yeah,
Kind of Mando, 2 weeks behind, but besides that, just March Madness.
yeah. March Madness, a little bit of Mindy Project sprinkled in. I watched the World Baseball Classic final, which was pretty sweet.
Insane.
I think that was the most watched baseball game of all time,
Yeah, which is
which
nuts.
is nuts. People are like, I'm a big baseball fan. I've got opening day is in 1 week, so I'm really excited about that. I'll be locked in on a lot of baseball, and yeah, I think people are excited about baseball. I think it's fun again. People think I've always liked it, but I think it's gonna be a fun year. Yeah, that's what I'm watching. I'll be obviously in some capacity watching the March Madness games this week. either at home or out in the town. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Tommy stepping out this weekend.
Yeah, dang, all right. Can't go to Mario Brothers opening, but can paint the town red on some March Madness.
Yeah, got some family coming into town, so I think we'll check out the scene. See what
There you
it's all.
go.
Yeah.
Catch some
Exciting.
game, eat some pizza.
Sounds like a great weekend.
Bummed about the Mario premiere, but JD, I will be interested in seeing Air if you want to do that.
100%.
April 5th, and I think we will be in the same town at that point. So
Maybe we can make that an assignment. Maybe we'll see. Because I think we all want to see that. I'm actually going to be seeing Creed 3 Monday because I just caught up on those last night and the night before, and I mean I love those movies. So I know Tommy, you were a big fan of that.
That's it. I'm watching them this weekend, and then we can talk about it.
There you go.
Creed 3 is sweet. I would love to talk about it a little bit on the next episode.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, maybe we'll do that. But yeah, otherwise, Rush next week. Watch that for sure, and 1983 for the Billboard hits. So follow along. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, good talking about the Joker. But yeah, excited for Rush next week.
Yeah.
See you guys for Rush.
All right. See you guys then.
See you guys.